Blood hit the mat first. Not hers, someone else's. She'd barely set foot in the Galactic Combat Academy, and already 2 cadets were being dragged off on stretchers. Welcome to the future's idea of peacekeeping school. Raina Maddox stood still at the edge of the training ring, sweat drying under her skin-tight uniform. She said nothing, observed everything. Eyes tracked her from every corner of the room. Some cautious, some hostile, all curious. The only human in a sea of scaled, shelled, feathered, or translucent faces. Alien cadets murmured in their own tongues, but Raina didn't need a translator to understand. They were waiting for her to snap. The Deathworlder stereotype hung around her like a second uniform. A 6-limbed insectoid cadet passed close, clicking nervously. His gaze lingered on the jagged scar under her eye, remnant of a spar on Earth's gravity cliffs. She offered a polite nod. He scurried away. Eyes full were Maddox. Barked a voice like stone on steel. Raina turned to face him. Instructor VRKL Thorak. Zolothai species. Over 7 feet tall, lean but corded with dense muscle. Bone ridges ran from his forehead to his jaw, and a ceremonial blade hung from his belt. Not regulation. His eyes, reptilian and cold, swept her up and down with disgust. "You understand Galactic Combat Standard?" he asked, claws tapping against his datapad. "Yes, sir." "Then you understand I don't like dead weight in my unit, especially not feral specimens from chemical cesspits." Raina didn't blink. "I understand I earned this slot by outperforming half your cadets in gravitational endurance, cognitive tests, and unarmed CQB. VRKL sneered. "Numbers don't matter when instincts betray training. Deathworlders react. They don't think." She met his gaze without flinching. "Then let's test that theory." He paused, nostrils flaring. Challenge registered. Then a slow grin. "You'll get your chance. Combat demo. 2 days. Bring a mouth guard. You'll need it." Raina's quarters were small, circular, and smelled faintly of sterilized plastic. Gravity here was lighter than Earth's. Every movement felt exaggerated, unbalanced. She adjusted slowly, doing one-finger push-ups on the carbon slab floor as planetary maps flickered on her wall screen. Triskin 4 rotated beneath the station, its shattered moon permanently etched with ancient battle scars. The Academy trained peacemakers, they said, but the view told a different story. A soft chime. Door opened. Cadet Jolly entered. Quiet, deliberate, compound eyes flickering. "I saw your transfer profile." Raina stood. "And you are statistically improbable." "That's a polite way of saying I shouldn't be here." Jolly's mandibles clicked. "I didn't say that." "You thought it." A pause. "You're wrong." Raina's brow lifted. Surprising honesty. Jolly tilted his head. "You don't react the way others do. Most species compensate in unfamiliar gravity. You adapted in less than 3 hours. Your movement is restrained." "Controlled," she corrected. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Instructor VRKL wants you to lose in public. He intends to provoke you, hurt you, make you prove every fear they already believe." Raina's jaw flexed. "Thanks for the warning." "I'm not warning you," Jolly said. "I'm watching to see what you do with it." He left without another word. Training resumed the next day. Raina shadowboxed through zero-resistance simulations while cadets practiced drills across the chamber. Whispers still followed her, but now some of them were quieter, more thoughtful. Later, she entered the gravity-warp gym, set to 1.3 Earth G. Her muscles groaned with the comfort of home. She moved like liquid steel. Jab, duck, elbow, pivot, ground sweep. The echoes of her father's voice came as clearly as if he were beside her. "They'll always be stronger in numbers, smarter in tech. But they don't know control like we do. Your power isn't your fists. It's knowing when not to use them." Raina stopped in front of the mirror. Her nose was unbroken then. It wouldn't be for long. Later that evening, the cadets gathered in the mess, an awkward collection of silence and side glances. Raina ate alone, prodding some gray protein block with a utensil that looked more like a surgical tool. From across the room, VRKL approached. The mess hall grew still. He stopped in front of her table. Enjoying your rations, Maddox? Could use more protein, she said without looking up. He leaned closer. Your kind eats meat raw, yes? Perhaps I'll bring something fresh to the mat in 2 days. She stared at him now. Don't mistake restraint for weakness, Instructor. Oh, I don't, he said, tone low. But when I break your nose in front of every species in this academy, they'll stop pretending your kind belongs among us. He left. The room slowly resumed motion. Raina sat at the edge of her bunk later that night, holding a small hollow of earth. Her mother had sent it. The Rockies, lit under dusk. Distant, alien now. Her fingers hovered above the play button for a message she hadn't listened to in days. Remember what you are, Raina. Not what they say you are. Not what they want you to be. You're human. That still means something. Even here. She clicked it off, then stood. Tomorrow, they'd try to break her, but they'd never see it coming when she broke their idea of her instead. Raina moved through the training gauntlet, like a shadow stitched to gravity. The weighted course was meant to simulate combat under stress. Sinking terrain, stuttering strobe lights, vibrating floors, and micrometeor impacts on the walls for distraction. For most cadets, it was brutal. For her, it was focus sharpened. She dove, pivoted, climbed, struck padded dummies with the precision of a scalpel and the force of a falling engine block. A few onlookers paused their own drills to watch. She didn't notice them. Her breath was even, mind clear. When the buzzer signaled course completion, the display blinked red for a moment, calculating, then shifted to purple. Elite performance. Again, Raina muttered. A tall cadet from the Serati species, scaled, sleek, with bioluminescent ridges, tilted his head from a distance. You don't stop even after qualifying scores. Raina shrugged, wiping her brow. Scores don't stop bones from breaking. After her run, she walked the outer corridor in silence. The lights were dim for evening cycle, casting cool white arcs across the metallic walls. Her boots made barely a sound. She paused in front of an observation deck, overlooking Triskin 4 below. The planet's fractured moon caught the sunlight in jagged flashes, each scar a reminder of what diplomacy had cost in this part of the galaxy. She stood there, arms folded, thinking of nothing. Jolly's reflection appeared beside her. Your timing is unsettling, she said, still staring out. You move like you carry something heavier than gravity, he said softly. That makes noise whether you speak or not. She glanced sideways. You always as poetic, or just with humans? Jolly's mandibles twitched. I study behavior. Yours is conflicted. Raina sighed. I'm not here to impress them. I'm here to not give them what they expect. They expect aggression, he said. Then I'll give them calculation. A pause. They talk about Earth. Jolly said, the storms, the predators, the unbreathable air for most species. They forget that we're not just survivors, she said, tone level. We adapted. We thrived. We kept growing even when our planet tried to kill us. You fight like you're trying not to kill. Raina's gaze hardened. Because if I stop trying, someone gets hurt. Later that day, Instructor VRAL gathered Unit 7 in the central dome, a hollow, echoing room shaped like a coliseum. Cadets circled the floor, forming an uneven ring. In the center, a single combat mat. Stark, unforgiving. VRRKL stood in full instructor armor, talons glinting under the white-blue dome light. His voice thundered across the chamber. Discipline, he began, is what separates warriors from beasts. It is what unifies this academy. And yet, he turned, let his gaze linger on Raina. Some question whether certain species understand the word at all. Cadets looked to her. She said nothing. Her jaw was still, her posture relaxed. VRRKL continued, circling. Tomorrow, we hold our mid-cycle combat demonstration, a trial of focus, control, and restraint. Cadet Maddox has volunteered as our primary example. Raina blinked. She hadn't volunteered. She'd been offered no choice. If she can maintain control, VRRKL added, perhaps the rumors of her kind's volatility are exaggerated. Or, he paused a deliberate wait, they're not. He stepped off the mat. The crowd broke into muttering groups. Some laughed. A few looked away. Jolly walked up beside her. "He means to provoke you," he said quietly. "In front of everyone. Not just cadets. Tribunal officers will be watching." "Good," Raina said, stretching her neck. "Then they'll see exactly what I am." That evening, she spent an hour in the gravity chamber. No training, just sitting, meditating under a simulated Earth G-force. Her bones ached in a familiar weight, her muscles responding as if greeting an old friend. A memory surfaced uninvited. She was 15, standing in a dusty clearing with her father, his military prosthetic glinting in the sunset. "Tell me again," he'd said, tapping his own chest. "What's stronger, your strength or your will?" "My strength," she'd said without thinking. He'd raised a brow. She corrected herself. "My will, because strength without it is a weapon without aim." He'd nodded. "You'll need that out there." Even now, in a station orbiting a shattered moon, surrounded by species who thought her dangerous, Raina knew he'd been right. The next day dawned in cold light and hushed anticipation. The academy buzzed with whispers. Instructors passed silent glances. Cadets pretended they weren't curious, but every walkway, every corridor near the central dome filled early. Raina walked the hall alone. Inside, the combat mat waited. Empty, clean, wide enough to prove something, and narrow enough to humiliate someone. She stood at its edge, breathing slow. VRRKL entered last. He wore the same expression as always, disdain wrapped in confidence. He walked past her, paused, spoke low enough for only her to hear. "They think you're disciplined," he said. "I'll tear that illusion out of them one cracked rib at a time." Raina turned her head. "Careful. That works both ways." VRRKL smiled. Let the demonstration begin. The combat dome thrummed with energy. Hushed voices filled the chamber as dozens of cadets lined the upper tiers, eyes fixed on the map below. A few instructors hovered near the edge, arms crossed, silent. Every species was represented, scaled, feathered, armored, translucent, but all waited for one thing: the human versus the Zolothai. Raina stood at the center of the mat, barefoot, spine straight. The bright arena lights gleamed off her dark training uniform. Dried blood crusted beneath her nostrils from a nosebleed during morning drills. She hadn't cleaned it off. Let them see it. VRRKL entered from the far side, towering and armored, talons flexing. The polished bone plating across his forearms clicked with each step. He didn't need armor. This wasn't real war. But intimidation was part of the show. He raised his voice to the crowd. What we witnessed today is not merely a test of skill. It is a test of discipline, of whether certain species can rise above their primitive instincts. Murmurs rippled. Raina stayed quiet, eyes steady. VRRKL turned to face her. "This is not a duel. It is instruction. I will not hold back. Neither should you if you're capable." The automated signal pulsed above them. A tone echoed. "Begin." They moved. VRRKL lunged first. A feint, fast and low. His foot swept at her ankle, claws brushing cloth. Raina shifted. Precise, minimal. She didn't counter. Didn't strike. She read the space between them like pressure points on a map. He came again. A backhand this time, meant to clip her temple. She ducked. A hush followed every motion. No one expected her to last this long, without reacting. They'd seen Zolothai instructors knock trained cadets unconscious in seconds. Raina flowed around the third strike, an elbow meant for her ribs. She pivoted with him, using his momentum, guiding it into empty air. VRKL growled, "Fight, Maddox." She didn't answer. Her breath remained even, shoulders loose. He was fast, but she had trained for worse. In jungle heat, under crushing G-force, blindfolded. He stepped in again, closer now. No theatrics, just force. She blocked the punch with her forearm. It jarred her bone. Then he dropped low and drove his fist upward into her face. Crack! The sound echoed through the dome like a snapped branch. Her head jerked back. Blood exploded from her nose. The crowd collectively flinched. Raina stumbled half a step. Her vision blurred for a breath. Her pulse spiked. She tasted copper. The pain bloomed slow, like hot glass in her sinuses. The room tilted for a moment, and then stilled. VRKL grinned. This is where you lose control. Blood ran down her lips. She didn't speak. Instead, she lowered her stance, shifted her weight. Her fingers flexed once, like resetting a switch. Then, with terrifying calm, she moved. She caught his neck strike midair, palming his elbow, twisting it with a sharp angle inward. He hissed, surprised. She stepped into his body, dropped her center of mass, and drove her shoulder under his armpit, hooked his wrist, locked the joint, and turned. A sickening pop, followed by a wet snap, echoed through the dome. VRKL howled, knees buckling. Reyna didn't let him fall. She kept the pressure, held him suspended for a half-beat, his now broken arm twisted behind his back, claws limp. Gasps erupted around them. Some cadets stood without realizing it. She released him. VRKL collapsed to the mat, cradling his shattered limb, breath ragged. Reyna stepped back. Blood still streamed down her chin. She looked up at the silent crowd. Her voice, when it came, was low, controlled. On Earth, she said, that's called restraint. No one moved. No one spoke. A siren broke the silence. Medical response team sprinting in, drones already lifting VRKL onto a stretcher. His eyes, wide with pain, found hers. There was no hatred in them now, only something else. Recognition. Reyna sat outside the medbay chamber, pinching gauze against her face. She refused a Regan patch. Let it heal. Across from her, Jolly leaned forward. 30 seconds. She glanced at him. You timed it. From the first hit to the last. You could have done it sooner. I could have ended it before he touched me. Why didn't you? Reyna tilted her head back, eyes closed, because they needed to see it. Jolly studied her. I don't think they saw a monster today. No, she said softly, but they saw what happens when you provoke one. The footage spread before the dome lights dimmed, and the galaxy watching did not forget her name. Reyna wasn't suspended. She wasn't reprimanded. She wasn't even questioned. That was the part that disturbed her most. No lectures from command. No official reports. Not even a scolding from the ethics board. The incident with VRKO was treated as routine, an unfortunate training accident. His broken arm was barely mentioned in the daily bulletin. The footage, of course, had already leaked. By the second day, whispers followed her in the halls. Is that the one who broke an instructor's arm? She didn't even flinch. She let him hit her first. Reyna kept her eyes forward and her shoulders back. She didn't acknowledge the rumors. Let them talk. Let them wonder. But beneath her calm, something else simmered. The silence meant someone high up had seen the footage and approved. Do you know what they're calling you? Jolly asked, leaning over the edge of the observation platform, both elbows propped on the rail. Reyna stood beside him, arms folded. Below, a new batch of cadets struggled through a weighted gravity crawl, groaning under the pressure. She watched them without comment. He nudged her. They're calling you Death's Daughter. Real poetic. Some Terra mythology, probably. She sighed. It's nonsense. Jolly smirked. Maybe, but they're afraid of you now. Even the instructors. And that's rare. She turned to him. You think that's a good thing? I think it's necessary. He paused. They never would have let a Zolothai get away with that hit. But you? They were hoping you'd snap. Reyna's jaw tightened. They wanted to show. No, they wanted confirmation. Of what? Jolly met her eyes. That a human could be both weapon and symbol. That night, she received the summons. Not from the Academy heads. Not from her instructors. From Fleet Command. A private shuttle arrived at dawn, sleek, black, unmarked. She stepped aboard without a word, uniform crisp, face unreadable. 2 officers in silver trim coats flanked the central aisle, but offered no greeting. The flight was silent. Reyna didn't ask where they were going. She already knew. The room was glass and steel, suspended high above the orbital station. Earth hung in the distance, blue and burning with light. A panel of admirals stood behind a transparent desk. No names, no insignia. She stood at attention. One of them, a woman with silver streaks in her hair and a voice like polished stone, spoke first. You are Cadet Raina Maddox, born Mars Colony 3, Earth citizenship by bloodline, enrolled through Coalition Exception Protocol. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. You assaulted a Zolothai instructor in a training dome. He broke my nose, Raina replied. I responded proportionally. Another admiral, this one taller, pale-eyed, leaned forward. You did not retaliate out of emotion? No, sir. Explain your thought process. Raina inhaled. I calculated the necessary level of force to incapacitate, without permanent damage. I waited to ensure witnesses would see the provocation. Then I acted with precision. A beat of silence. Then the first admiral nodded slowly. Good. Raina's jaw clenched. Permission to speak freely, Admiral? Granted. Why am I here? The woman stepped around the desk. Because the galaxy needs to see that humans are more than feral Deathworlders. It needs to see that we can control what we are. And if I hadn't, if you'd crippled him, if you'd killed him, you wouldn't be standing here. That hung in the air. Then the third voice spoke calm and cool. You passed a real test, Cadet. Not the duel. The aftermath. Raina didn't look away. I'm not here to be your symbol. No, the Admiral said, but you've already become one. The offer came not in words, but in meaning. A fast track to covert operations. Special units. Missions where diplomacy failed and power spoke instead. You would be deployed where strength is the only language, where our enemies mistake compassion for weakness. Raina didn't answer right away. She stared out the window. Earth rotated slowly beneath the station, its clouds delicate, its surface scarred. I'll do what's required, she said finally. The Admiral nodded. Dismissed. The shuttle dropped her back hours later. As it descended through the clouds, she felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. Not fear, not pride, resolve. When she stepped onto the training grounds again, cadets fell silent. Eyes tracked her. But now, they weren't just watching her. They were measuring themselves against her. Back from the abyss? Jolly asked, falling into step beside her. She gave a small, tired smile. Fleet want me quiet and deadly. So, Tuesday, basically. She chuckled. Just once. It felt foreign. Hey, Jolly said, growing more serious. They're going to keep testing you. But remember, they don't get to define what it means to be human. You do. She nodded, and for the first time in days, Raina felt the weight shift slightly off her shoulders. Not gone, but lighter. The galaxy hadn't forgotten the broken arm. But now, it whispered something else. She didn't snap. She chose her moment. And that choice was more terrifying than rage. The jungle heat clung like a second skin. Raina crouched behind a twisted root structure, her breath steady despite the weight of her gear. Every sound in this alien forest was amplified. Dripping vines, shifting leaves, the distant click-hiss of creatures that hadn't evolved on any Terran soil. This wasn't training. No safety net. No simulated threat. This was her first live deployment. Operation Veilfall, deep on a contested border moon, where a rogue Corthan faction had taken human hostages and fortified an ancient alien ruin as their stronghold. Fleet Command didn't send diplomats. They sent her. Visual confirmation? Came Jolly's voice through the comm. He was 2 clicks east with the recon drone feed. Raina tapped her ocular lens. Confirmed. 8 guards. 2 tower sentries. Civilians housed underground. Entry point shielded. ETA to breach? 3 minutes. Set distraction. Copy. She moved like a shadow between roots and rock. Her neural implant mapped motion vectors over reality, giving her the edge. But it was her instincts that made her lethal. She didn't rely on tech. She used it. Her mind was clear. Her body precise. They set me here to be a symbol. Fine. Then I'll show them exactly what humanity is. A controlled explosion rocked the eastern perimeter, blinding white flash, high-frequency pulse. Screams followed. The Corthan guard scrambled, drawn away. Raina was already moving. She sprinted low and fast, reaching the inner wall, magnetic claws anchoring her ascent. The tower guard never saw her. One clean strike to the neck. Silence. Inside, the corridors were carved from stone older than any species here. Symbols flickered faintly across the walls. Pre-tech, forgotten civilization. The Korthans had repurposed the ancient crypt as a bunker. It wouldn't matter. Reyna slipped through shadows until she reached the holding cells. 2 humans, 1 man, 1 child. Gaunt, bruised, but alive. She keyed open the door. Fleet sent me? The man's eyes widened. One of you? No, just me. They moved fast. She led them back through the corridor, her eyes constantly scanning. But something shifted. A faint hum. Her jaw tightened. EMP grids recharging. Jolly warned in her ear. You got 90 seconds before they lock you inside. She glanced behind. Hostages struggling to keep up. Can you trigger a second pulse? No. One-time charge. She reached the main exit. Dozens of footfalls echoed behind. The Korthans had regrouped. Time was gone. Reyna turned, drew her weapon, and shoved it into the man's hands. Exit west. Follow the beacon signal. You'll find our people. What about you? I'm not done yet. She sprinted back into the ruin before he could argue. The first Korthan she encountered was fast. She was faster. She ducked under a plasma blade and crushed his throat with the butt of her rifle. Another leapt from the ledge. She spun, firing twice. 2 bodies hit the floor. They kept coming. But so did she. A blur of motion, flesh and instinct. Her fists cracked bone. Her boots snapped spines. Her eyes burned with something deeper than fury. Discipline. You wanted a Deathworlder. Here I am. Jolly's voice crackled. Reyna, fall back. We have eyes on you. Support incoming. Hold position. She didn't respond. She reached the command chamber, a circular dome lined with archaic tech. The Korthan war chief turned, towering, armored, twin plasma axes igniting in his hands. So, the Terran dog arrives. Reyna stood tall. I'm the last face you'll see. They clashed. Axes hissed. She ducked, twisted, slammed a stun charge his flank. It fizzled. His armor absorbed it. He roared, swung wide. She caught the edge. Pain bloomed across her ribs. But she didn't fall. She never fell. With a grunt, she drove her knee into his thigh, dislocating the joint. As he stumbled, she grabbed the haft of one axe, yanked, and plunged it through his side. The roar stopped. The chamber fell silent. She dropped to one knee, panting, blood running from a cut above her brow. Then, footsteps. Fleet operatives in full armor swept in, weapons raised. Jolly was with them. He rushed to her side. You stubborn, magnificent lunatic. She smirked, weakly. Wasn't going to let you have all the glory. Back on the evac ship, the child she saved sat across from her, eyes wide. You're not like the stories, the girl whispered. Reyna leaned forward. Which ones? The ones that say humans are monsters. She smiled. Sometimes we are, but not today. The girl hesitated. You were hurt. Why didn't you stop? Because someone had to stand between you and them. Even if it meant dying? Reyna nodded. Especially then. Weeks later, Fleet Command released the footage, edited, polished, with strategic commentary in 6 galactic languages. It spread faster than any formal declaration. No flag, no anthem, just a human standing alone in a hostile ruin, refusing to yield. And a message burned beneath it all. Humanity doesn't run. It rises. The galaxy remembered the broken arm. Now, it remembered everything else. And Reyna Maddox became more than just a cadet. She became the line between order and chaos. Not a monster, not a symbol, just human. And that was enough to terrify them all.